I'll never forget my first night in this lovely house.
We thought it was haunted.
Well, you can't have everything.
More than 6 decades since its debut, The Addams Family continues to make waves on American television screens. From Broadway stages, animated series, feature films, to the smash hit Wednesday on Netflix, this eccentric clan has never stopped captivating audiences.
The playroom?
Neat. Sweet.
But did you know that the very first Addams Family series in 1964 hid many bizarre secrets, like the fact that the Addams mansion was actually painted pastel pink, or that this family once made surprisingly accurate predictions about the future? What makes a seemingly out-of-place family endure so long in collective memory? And are you ready to discover 10 eerie yet fascinating truths about the Addams family? 10. Gomez and Morticia truly loved each other at first sight. From the very first days of working together, John Astin admitted he was immediately drawn to Carolyn Jones, a real-life spark that fueled the on-screen chemistry between Gomez and Morticia, making their romance feel impossibly natural. Both actors quickly agreed the love between their characters could not be just a side detail. It had to be the very heartbeat of the show, a grand romance that stood in stark contrast to the dull, distant couples so common in sitcoms of the time. With creative freedom at his disposal, Astin moulded Gomez into the archetype of the Latin lover, suave, passionate, and unafraid to wear his heart on his sleeve. He would endlessly kiss Morticia's arm whenever she spoke in French, his eyes ablaze with devotion, his words dripping with endearment. These gestures became iconic, etching into memory an image of Gomez as both eccentric and irresistibly romantic. Curiously, throughout the entire series, Gomez never once kissed Morticia on the lips. This restriction, partly due to strict television standards of the era, also became an artistic choice that elevated their relationship. Their passion was conveyed instead through glances, gestures, and those signature kisses on her hand, creating a private language of love that was both tender and bold. This subtle decision cemented their romance as one of the most unforgettable in television history. So what do you think was the fiery love between Gomez and Morticia, the secret to the Addams family's timeless legacy? 9. The first television family to own a computer. On the small screen of the 1960s, while most TV families gathered around their black and white sets or rotary phones, the Addams family shocked viewers with something truly extraordinary: a home computer. The machine was called Wizzo, making its first appearance in the episode The Addams Family Splurges. In the scene, Gomez and his son Pugsley proudly showcased the massive computer as if it were nothing more than an afternoon hobby. Instead of using it for work or study, they dreamt up a far more absurd task, calculating the costs of a family trip to the moon. For a family that slept in coffins, talked to plants, and kept a lion as a pet, such an idea somehow seemed perfectly logical. But Wizzo wasn't only for lunar fantasies. Gomez eagerly repurposed it for practical matters like predicting horse race winners to plan the family's vacation budget. By the second season, Wizzo returned in an even more dramatic setting when Gomez decided to run for mayor. Uncle Fester dragged the giant machine into the living room, transforming it into his campaign's political engine. This gag was both a sharp satire of 1960s American politics and a bold commentary on technology. While most audiences had never even seen a real computer, the Addamses treated one as just another bizarre household toy. And Wizzo wasn't pure fiction. Its look and name were inspired by UNIVAC, or Universal Automatic Computer, the world's first commercial electronic computer, famous for correctly predicting the results of the 1952 US presidential election. By placing a mini UNIVAC in the Addams mansion, the show cleverly mocked society. Here was a family so strange that even the century's most groundbreaking invention became just another plaything. 8. The iconic theme song was sung by only one man. In 1964, inside a small Hollywood recording studio, Brooklyn-born composer Vic Mizzy single-handedly created the legendary Addams Family theme. Instead of hiring multiple singers as originally planned, he used overdubbing, layering his own voice again and again until it sounded like a full chorus. The entire recording cost only a few $100s, but the result was unforgettable harpsichord bass clarinet and the iconic snap snap that became synonymous with the Addams name. Mizzy later joked, "Two snaps and I lived like Gomez Addams." The song came together in a single afternoon, inspired by Charles Addams' cartoons. In the studio, Mizzy conducted himself singing, playing and snapping fingers alongside a couple of technicians. At first, producers thought the snapping gimmick was ridiculous, but once they heard the finished track, they immediately kept it, and it soon became the show's most recognizable hook. Though the theme never topped US charts, it did reach the rankings in Canada, and the soundtrack album sold over 100,000 copies. Mizzy later reused the overdub technique for other projects and even rearranged the theme with a full orchestra for the 1977 special. When the 1991 Addams Family movie arrived, he insisted on preserving the original melody, calling it the soul of the franchise. Today, the Addams Family theme is more than a TV jingle, it's a cultural phenomenon. It's been covered, remixed, used in trailers, sampled in modern tracks, and even reintroduced in Netflix's Wednesday. 7. The Addams mansion was actually painted pastel pink. The exterior shots of the Addams mansion came from a real house at 21 Chester Place, Los Angeles. But behind the spooky facade of the 1964 series lay a shocking secret: the mansion's interior was anything but gloomy. Instead of cobwebs and gothic shadows, the actual set was bursting with bright colours. The living room walls were painted pastel pink, the chairs upholstered in floral patterns, the carpets a soft yellow, and even accents of turquoise sprinkled throughout. It looked more like a cosy suburban home than the eerie lair of America's strangest family. Of course, the director chose to mask all this with black and white filming, which transformed the cheerful palette into something far darker. Soft pink walls turned into ominous shades of grey, warm gold into cold highlights, and Gothic architecture suddenly popped with menacing clarity. Producer David Levy admitted he deliberately used monochrome to disguise the silliness of the real colours. In fact, Gomez even joked in a promotional trailer, "Pink walls, I'd rather live in a coffin." The transformation was remarkable. Morticia's embroidery chair, which appeared black and worn on screen, was actually white wicker covered with dainty pink floral fabric. Lurch's harpsichord wasn't dark wood at all, it was painted light green. Through the magic of monochrome, every cheerful object morphed into a perfectly haunted prop. The dining room was no less dramatic. The long table, which seemed like aged ebony, was actually polished oak. The antique-looking silverware, which appeared stolen from a graveyard, was in reality just light-coloured party cutlery chosen to show up better under black and white cameras. In fact, producers deliberately painted many props pink or yellow, so they would stand out, creating the chilling illusion we still associate with the Addams mansion today. 6. Characters only got their names when the show was born. Back in 1938, Charles Addams had already sketched a bizarre, gloomy and darkly humorous family in The New Yorker. But here's the twist. For decades, the characters had no names at all. They were simply the thin husband with the mysterious grin, the long-haired wife like the knight, the sad little girl, or the mischievous boy. The term, the Addams Family, only referred to them collectively, nothing more. It wasn't until Hollywood prepared to adapt the cartoons into a TV series in 1964 that naming the characters became a pressing issue. That's when Charles Addams entered a creative tug-of-war. He was invited to consult and pitch ideas, but didn't have full authority. The name Gomez is a prime example. Addams originally wanted repelly a pun on repellent, but actor John Astin felt Gomez sounded stronger and friendlier. Astin's choice prevailed, and from then on the character would forever be known as Gomez Addams. The son's name was even more curious. Addams wanted to call him Pubert, a dark joke riffing on puberty perfectly, in line with Addams's humour. But ABC, the network set to air the show, immediately rejected it. For them, Pubert was too sharp, too suggestive. The safer option, Pugsley, was chosen instead. Ironically, decades later, Addams had his sweet revenge in the 1993 film Addams Family Values Gomez, and Morticia's newborn baby was finally given the name Pubert he had originally envisioned. Even the gloomy-faced little girl with cold eyes had her naming drama. Addams admitted he hadn't thought of a name at all until his close friend, actress and poet Joan Blake suggested one. In a letter published in The New Yorker in 2018, Blake recalled when Addams confessed this girl doesn't have a name, she immediately thought of the nursery rhyme Monday's child is fair of face. Wednesday's child is full of woe. She proposed Wednesday the child of woe. Charles Addams instantly agreed, and so the world was introduced to the haunting Wednesday Addams. Even the mother, this deathly alluring figure, was born at that moment. The name Morticia, equal parts sensual and chilling, was coined by Addams himself, a play on Mortician. Paired with Carolyn Jones's iconic portrayal, her sleek black gown and immortal aura, Morticia Addams quickly became one of pop culture's most seductive embodiments of gothic glamour. So what do you think of these names? Do they truly fit the characters? Share your thoughts in the comments. 5. Uncle Fester had to shave his head to land the role. Jackie Coogan was not the first choice to play Uncle Fester in the Addams Family. In fact, he was initially rejected after his first audition. But instead of giving up, Coogan transformed himself. He shaved his head, bald, crafted his own costume, and applied makeup to embody the bizarre character. When he returned in full disguise, he convinced the producers and won the role that would define his later career. Before becoming Uncle Fester, Coogan already had a legendary career spanning decades. He had stepped into Hollywood as a child actor and quickly became one of the world's first global child stars. His expressive face, innocence, and emotional depth made him a favourite in the silent film era. His most memorable childhood role was in The Kid, 1921, where he played the orphan boy alongside Charlie Chaplin. The film became a timeless masterpiece, and young Coogan helped cement its legacy. The image of the mischievous yet tender boy remains etched in cinematic history, propelling Coogan into stardom. As an adult, Coogan struggled to escape the shadow of his childhood fame, but Uncle Fester gave him a triumphant return. This time, he re-emerged not as a cherubic child, but as a bizarre, bald, unforgettable character. Do you love Uncle Fester's eccentricity? Share your thoughts below. 4. Thing's hand was actually played by Lurch's actor. In the history of American television, few side characters are as strange and iconic as Thing in the Addams Family. That disembodied hand wasn't special effects or a fake prop. It was the hand of Ted Cassidy, the towering actor who also played the butler Lurch. Of course, when Lurch and Thing appeared on screen together, Cassidy couldn't play both at once. In those moments, assistant director and associate producer Jack Vogelin, or sometimes other crew members, slipped their hands through the bottom of prop boxes to maintain the illusion that Thing was an independent creature. This quiet teamwork pulled off a visual magic trick despite the show's limited budget and technology. Technically, Cassidy often lay flat on a wheeled dolly beneath the set floor, hiding his body from the camera, so only his hand could emerge naturally from boxes or table crevices. Most shots used his right hand, though. Occasionally he cheekily used his left just to see if anyone on set or in the audience noticed. These little details reflected Cassidy's playful humour and added to the show's behind-the-scenes lore. In later adaptations from the 1990s movies to Netflix's Wednesday Thing, continued to live on, performed by other artists with the help of modern special effects. 3. Gomez Addams' appearance changed dramatically. In Charles Addams' original cartoons, published in The New Yorker, the character of Gomez looked quite different from the familiar image we know today. He was drawn as a short, chubby man with an upturned nose, crooked teeth, and a jutting chin, someone who seemed to step out of a satirical sketch more than a romantic lead. This was consistent with Addams' cartooning style, emphasizing the bizarre and absurd to provoke laughter. As a result, the original Gomez leaned more toward odd and awkward than dashing or charismatic. The transformation came when the Addams Family TV series was produced in 1964, with John Astin cast as Gomez. At the time, Astin was already a familiar face in films known for his energy and stage charm. More importantly, he was given unusual creative freedom. He could pitch ideas and develop the character his own way. The producers accepted and defended most of his suggestions against the network, allowing Gomez to break free from the caricature mold and evolve into a more vibrant character. One of Astin's boldest ideas was to turn Gomez into a Latin lover, a romantic, passionate archetype that was popular in 1960s cinema. He infused the character with affectionate gestures, fiery looks, and even sprinkled in Spanish endearments when addressing Morticia. This transformed Gomez into more than just an eccentric figure. He became a compelling mix of strange and seductive, captivating audiences with his intense devotion. Another fun fact in the auditions, John Astin originally tried out for the role of the butler Lurch. However, he found it hard to imagine himself in that role. Luckily, the producers saw his potential as the father figure and gave him the role of Gomez Addams instead. 2. Premiered at the same time as The Munsters. In the fall of 1964, American television witnessed an odd phenomenon. 2 spooky family sitcoms premiered within days of each other. The Addams Family debuted on ABC on September 18th, while The Munsters hit CBS on September 24th. The 2 shows quickly became direct rivals, not only because of their close schedules and similar genres, but also because they both explored the then-fresh concept of an unconventional family in 1960s America. To draw boundaries, the production teams made some strategic choices, one being to avoid sharing the same guest stars. According to behind-the-scenes notes, producers feared that audiences might confuse or compare the 2 shows if they saw the same familiar faces in both. While no formal list was publicised, this tactic helped maintain each show's distinct identity. The biggest difference, however, lay in character philosophy. John Astin, who played Gomez Addams, explained it best. The Munsters featured monster-looking characters living otherwise ordinary suburban lives, working raising kids and blending into society. By contrast, the Addams Family showed a family that looked relatively normal, yet whose behaviours, values and lifestyle were so peculiar that audiences felt both unsettled and amused. As creator David Levy emphasised, the Addamses were not monsters, but fully fleshed-out humans built in the satirical spirit of Charles Addams's cartoons. Even so, the public at the time often lumped the 2 shows together, sometimes viewing them as mirror-image versions of each other. Which show do you prefer? Share your thoughts below. 1. Morticia. Addams had to spend 2 hours in makeup every day. Morticia Addams appeared on screen as the embodiment of elegance and mystery, but bringing that image to life came at a cost. To play her role in the Addams Family, Carolyn Jones had to undergo a rigorous 2-hour makeup session daily. The famous gown she wore, seemingly just a sultry black dress, was in fact a restrictive hobble dress, so tight it made walking nearly impossible. From shoulders to ankles, it locked her body, forcing her to glide across the set instead of walking. On screen, this gave Morticia the eerie illusion of floating like a ghost, but off-screen it was pure physical endurance. Because of this constraint, Jones could barely move naturally between scenes. At times, she had to hop awkwardly to get around, or the crew had to carry her across longer distances like a Gothic statue. Sitting posed an even greater challenge. The tight fit at the knees made bending nearly impossible. As a solution, the costume department designed a slanted board backstage where she could lean and rest without ruining the dress. Director Sidney Lanfield and costume designer Edith Head had a clear goal. Morticia should appear as though her lower body never moved, creating a surreal, ethereal effect. To achieve it, they literally turned the dress into a kind of shackle, sacrificing the actress's comfort for cinematic artistry. Every sultry glance and enigmatic smile viewers adored was made possible by this painstaking effort. But the struggles didn't stop there. Carolyn Jones was naturally blonde, so to become Morticia, she had to wear a long, heavy black wig made from real hair. Under hot studio lights, it felt like wearing a thick blanket on her head. Combined with the suffocatingly tight gown playing Morticia was akin to working inside a mobile sauna. Yet on screen, audiences only saw a calm, alluring woman, never the exhaustion behind the performance. What made the story even more admirable was Jones's professionalism and dedication. She loved the role so much that after the series ended, she kept the iconic dress as a keepsake, though she admitted she would never wear it again. Morticia was her most iconic role, but also the toughest physical challenge of her career. 10. Bizarre yet enchanting truths have shown us that the Addams Family was far more than just a black and white sitcom. It became a cultural legacy that outlived television. More than half a century later, its influence still thrives in popular culture. The icy Morticia, the ardent Gomez, and the famous Snap Snap live on in films, cartoons, Broadway, and most recently in Netflix's global hit Wednesday. So how many of these facts did you already know? Which detail impressed you the most? The gothic mobile prison dress of Morticia, or the Addamses being the first TV family with a home computer? And what other secrets about them would you like me to uncover? Thank you for staying until the end. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe to the